good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's currently just gone 12:15 in the PM here in Northern England, and it's a pretty chilly one. It's not that bad, but I've seen warmer days. Let's put it that way. My phone's ringing in the other room, but I'm going to ignore it because I've got to do this quickly. I've only got an hour maximum today. I didn't even have time to record a video this morning. That's why I'm doing this pretty quick live stream. I could have waited and done it later, like much later, which may have been better for some people. I'm guessing this is a little bit too early for most people who watch my channel. But as it's going to be a relatively short live stream, it's going to be one that you're going to easily be able to watch on the replay. So hello to all the replay crew. I'm guessing there's going to be more replay crew people than there are live people. But anyway, I'm going to say a couple of hellos and then I'm going to get straight into it. We're talking timeline again in the Delphi case. And the way that the state's timeline has just been destroyed. It's been absolutely destroyed. It didn't make sense at the trial, which we're going to remind ourselves on first. We're going to look at that destruction of the timeline with the surveillance video from the Sandifer house of Brad Webber's van turning up not at the time when the state needed it to. And then at the end, I'm going to address a comment that I've had, which is interesting and I've looked into. So all of that coming up, but let's say a couple of hellos first. We've got Jim Green. Thank you, Jim, for joining. Welcome to the Secret Agents Club. Hello, Christy. We've got Cheryl. We've got Oh Snap Ginger. We've got CW. We've got Journey Takes a Trip. We've got Kelly. Oh, you must be in a different part of Northern England to me. I'm on the northwest, and it's chilly. It's just above freezing. It's frozen overnight, but things are just about thawed. So it's probably like 1, maybe 2 degrees Celsius at the moment. Like I said, I've had warmer days. I'm not wearing a t-shirt. I'm not that brave. And I actually put a coat on this morning when I went out. So I must have felt chilly. We've got RJ from Nova Scotia, Canada on a snowy day. I'm guessing it's pretty chilly where you are right now. Hello, Buglove, Keeley, Jay Haig, Shazza, Snappy Dragon from WV, West Virginia. I'm pretty good at the the US states and your abbreviations for them. Oh, we got Purple AJ. I think that was. Yeah, Purple AJ hopping in with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Purple AJ. We've got Nikki, maybe. We've got ZCS, Painting and Puzzle Princess, Ralph the Blind Pug. I think you've been a member before. And Flower of Scotland. You're my oldest member, Flower of Scotland, so I'm glad that you've been gifted a membership. That's great. All right, thank you so much, Purple AJ, and welcome, you guys. You get a month's free membership courtesy of the wonderful Purple AJ. So we've got Martha, Bad Girl, Beth, Vintage Twist, PayPal Me. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. All right. Without further ado, let me get rid of my flames. I do like these flames, but I have to get rid of them because they'll just stick in the middle of the screen. All right. First of all, we're going to remind ourselves what was said at the trial regarding this nonsense. This was the most damaging confession to Richard Allen's case. And this was something that Rick Allen supposedly said to his psychologist, Dr. Monica Waller, on May the 3rd, 2023. And it's one of the only times in Rick Allen's, how long was he in Westville? From November. He was in Westville about 13 months. All right. And this is one of the only times when he wasn't recorded. It was recorded 24/7 in his cell. It was recorded when he went along the corridors from A to B with a guard following him around with a video camera. It was recorded when he was having interviews with his attorneys and visits. He was recorded the whole time, except this time. Isn't that just convenient? And also, Monica Waller shredded her notes, but these are the notes that she put in the system. Right, so we have to just believe her. But it's this here fabricated confession, and I am going to say it's fabricated, because if Rick Allen said anything along these lines, I believe it's because Monica Waller was suggesting things to him at a time when he was psychotic. But the state have shot themselves in the foot by presenting this as their theory of what happened, which the jury believed. They have shot themselves entirely in the foot with this. Not only doesn't it tally with the timeline based on Libby's phone data, which I've talked about in numerous videos, talked about it a couple of days ago in a live stream. I'm going to briefly go through it once again. But the state have just put themselves in a very difficult position now. They have to now make sure that Rick Allen does not get a new trial, or else they are going to have so much egg on their face. It's going to be like, I don't know, a birthday party in a chicken shed. It's going to be absolutely carnage if Rick Allen gets a new trial. I believe, and this is just my personal opinion, that they've put him back in Westville to make sure that he's either not competent or not alive to stand trial again. They can't afford him to stand trial again because they have absolutely destroyed any hope that the state has of putting a legitimate case together next time round. It is absolutely cruel, Jay Hagan. It absolutely cruel. So this is what Dr. Monica Waller testified to at the trial. And also we've heard this similar thing before from one of the pre-trial hearings where she testified. She didn't go into, I don't think she went into so much detail. There were some surprises here. The van was certainly a surprise. It was a surprise to the defence that this van came up because the defence were under the impression that Brad Webber arrived home around 3:30 because that's what he told the police in 2017, that he arrived home between 3:30 and 3:40. That's what his mother, Kay Webber, was telling people on social media. And that's what he said to the police. So him coming along between 2:27 and 2:30, which is what the state told the jury, was a whole hour before he told the police in 2017 that he got home. So the van certainly was a surprise to the defence, and they had to, I guess, scramble to try and make it make sense. That's why Andy Baldwin, at the end of Brad Webber's testimony on direct, Brad Webber, when he was cross-examined, he got all defensive. So Andy Baldwin served him with a subpoena to come back during the defence's case. But unfortunately, what the defense weren't allowed to secure, and I say allowed for an absolutely valid reason, they weren't allowed to counter Brad Webber. They had, at every stage in that trial, they were stymied. Every possible credible defense that they could have put forward had already been disallowed or was continually being objected against and sustained by the judge, because they wanted to get the cop to testify who Brad Webber had said the 3:30 thing to. But that cop, whose name escapes me now, was now working in Texas, and he had a medical condition that meant he couldn't fly. And I guess he could have driven from Texas to Indiana and back again. But he was working. It was election time. It was a busy time for him. So he asked, he was willing to testify on behalf of the defense, but he wanted to do it via video link and, Zoom or something. And Judge Gould said, no, if this guy is going to testify, he's going to come to court. It just wasn't possible to get him there. It's ridiculous. But anyway, this is what Rick Allen told Monica Waller, allegedly, and certainly what she testified to. Allen told Waller about what happened on February 13th, 2017. He said he visited his mother in Mexico, Indiana. That was in the morning. He declined an invitation to go out with family for lunch. Instead, drank 3 beers and followed the girls to the bridge. Told her, I messed with the gun. I guess that's when the bullet fell out. That's when I ordered the girls down the hill, which doesn't make sense because the unspent round was found on the other side of the creek to the south side. It was found on the north side between the girls' bodies. So this truly was a magic bullet. It truly was a magic bullet because it found its own way from the down the hill position to the crime scene. Brilliant. Allen told her he saw a man or heard a van. Hard to make out what Waller said. But we know now it was van. And that's what scared him not to rape them. He then said he forced the girls down the hill, across the creek, slashed their throats, covered their bodies with tree branches, and walked back to his car. I think Ron Logan's confession that he told Teresa Davis is much more believable than this, because this does not fit with the evidence. It does not fit with where the unspent round was found. And it certainly doesn't fit with the timeline based on Libby's phone data. So clearly, Rick Allen is putting himself on the south side of the bridge when he was supposedly going to rape them. It was only when he'd seen the van that he forced the girls down the hill, across the creek, slashed their throats, covered their bodies with tree branches, and walked back to his car. It's clear from Monica Waller's testimony that if Rick Allen actually did say this to her, which I don't believe he did without prompting and without a lot of suggestion, the state, in getting Monica Waller to testify to this, has shot themselves well and truly in the foot, in my opinion. Thank you, Krista, for the 1999. Who was it that had an incident with kidnapping a girl at gunpoint or holding her against her will at gunpoint? Was that Brad Webber? Yeah, allegedly. There was, I think it was 2 women who he found them on his property and he held them. He wouldn't let them go. I don't know whether it was at gunpoint, but he wouldn't let them go. So he basically held them. And I don't know, probably was trying to scare them. But yes, that was Brad Webber, if that story's true. But thank you for the 1999. You're very kind. All right, so this doesn't make sense. It certainly doesn't make sense in relation to the phone data, and it makes even less sense now we know about the actual time that the van passed by. So once again, let's just go through this quickly to say why Rick Allen's supposed confession is now completely shot down in flames. It was shot down in flames at the trial. Unfortunately, the jury weren't able to put it together. I just wish the defense had really hammered home this point. But they didn't, unfortunately. But 700 meters takes us to about maybe a third to halfway across the bridge from the Mears farm entrance where they were dropped off. 414 meters. Now that needed to come after the down the hill. It needed to come after the no movement for Rick Allen's confession to make any sense. Because between 208 and 218, they walked 414 meters. Well, that would take them to the opposite side of the creek. So they needed the no movement between 218 and 225, that's 7 minutes of no movement, to be before this. Because if Rick Allen was trying to rate them, like right there on the south side of the bridge, but that got scared by the van, then that would have been the no movement on the phone. And then when he got scared, that should have been the 414 meters, which would have got him over to the other side. Instead, he's scared by the van between 227 and 230, like here. But there's no way you can get from the south side of the bridge down the hill and then across the creek in 50 meters. And then the phone registering 2 floors does not make sense because, and it also doesn't make sense in the Ron Logan confession either that I talked about the other day. That needed to come earlier, which is why I went into the woods and did an experiment with my old iPhone 6S, thinking, well, maybe there's some kind of a delay on how these things are kind of, stated on the phone. And there is a delay in steps being recorded or at least being shown to the user, and also flights climbed, there's a delay. But according to the Celebrite website, it doesn't appear that there's a delay to the actual recording on the phone in the metadata. The delay is the user seeing it, not that, trace of what's being done laid down in the metadata. That's as far as I can understand it. But this does not make sense because climbing 20 feet after the 50 meters between 231 and 232, this would have been the time when Libby was being killed, because 232 is when the phone stops. It just doesn't record any more steps or any more movement. But you can't climb 20 feet from that crime scene. From the creek to the crime scene, you're looking over a rise of about 2 meters, so about 6.5 feet. That wouldn't even register as 1 floor climbed. So it's all wrong. But the state testified to this. They have now got this set in stone as what they testified to, just like they've got this set in stone because this is what they told the jury that Rick Allen did. So the state have got a very, very, very long road to hoe now to walk this back, which again is why I think that they're going to try and ensure that there isn't a second trial. And they're going to do that in any way they can. They'll do that in any way they can. Any way they can. Even if that means that Rick Allen doesn't make it out of Westville alive. Now, you might think I'm being very conspiratorial here. But look, I can't discount that possibility. Because they put him in Westville in the first place to essentially torture him to make sure that he confessed. And, they were hoping, I guess, that he was just going to then plead guilty. But he didn't. Yes, they sent him into a psychotic phase that lasted, 2 months, 3 months? From April, and then he was maybe starting to improve June, July. So at least 2 months. He was in and out of psychosis. So when he's having these conversations with Dr. Waller, what is she suggesting to him? What is she putting in his head? She's probably putting in his head the things that she's seen on Delphi Facebook groups, because she was a Delphi fangirl. She was in a bunch of Facebook groups using her real name as well. She could have got away with it if she hadn't been using her real name. The absolute clown. Thank you, Ipsy, for the £10. That's very kind of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Sadly, don't think Rick will ever be free. Well, it's a long road. It's a long road through the appeals process. And if they keep him in Westville, I don't know how he's going to be competent to stand trial. I think that's what they're going to try and claim, that he's either not competent or that he's dead. So what more can you do? Anyway, this really set the cat amongst the pigeons, didn't it? This motion to correct errors that Rick Allen's trial attorneys put forward. If this fails, then it will be his appeals lawyers that take over his case. And he's got 2 very good appeals lawyers lined up. So he's in good hands. So this motion to correct errors has to be done before he can put forward his direct appeal. And this is done by his trial lawyers, because this is to correct things that were wrong at the trial. So this has to be done by the trial lawyers. So this was written by the trial lawyers. And we talked about the Ron Logan confession to Reese Davis the other day. Did a recorded video. Have I done 2 now? Have I done 2 recorded videos? Maybe I've only done 1. And a couple of live streams about Ron Logan, who I never, honestly, he never was on my list. I mean, he was on my list very early on, but then he was off. I never thought he was bridge guy. That was the thing. I don't really know why. But this confession to Reese Davis, I mean, look, it's containing information that you can't discount. It's more believable than this confession that Rick Allen supposedly gave to Monica Waller at Westville, May the 3rd, 2023. It's way more convincing than that. And that was straight after the murders. Reese Davis called the tip line on May 15th, 2017. So just 3 months after the murders, when Ron Logan and Reese were in the same pod at Newcastle Correctional Facility. So, you know, Ron Logan was going around telling people that he'd murdered Abby and Libby and doing confessions. We know of 2 confessions. One to James Haas, which isn't very specific, but this one to Reese Davis, you absolutely cannot discount it. You cannot discount it, and it makes more sense in relation to the timeline, in relation to what we know, than Rick Allen's confession does. That makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, this set the cat amongst the pigeons. This was another thing that set the cat amongst the pigeons, and this is Brad Weber. Brad Weber's van in violation of the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. And that's NAPU versus Illinois and its progeny. The state presented the testimony of Brad Weber that Mr. Weber arrived home in his white van around 2:30 p.m. on February 13th, 2017, either knowing that testimony was false before it was elicited or failing to correct it once it had been elicited. All right, so at the trial, the undisputed evidence was that Libby's phone stopped moving at 2:18 for 7 minutes until 2:25. It then started moving again and stopped moving permanently at 2:32. In closing arguments, Mr. McClellan called it a hard fact. So how can they walk this back? How can they walk this back now? You know, all the defense need to do, if Rick Allen does get a second trial, and it's a long shot, not necessarily that I don't think he'd be successful at appeal. Most people aren't, but I think Rick's got a better chance than the average on getting, a successful appeal and getting a second trial based on, the information. That's why I think they're going to have to make sure that he's not competent or not alive to stand trial, because all the defence need to do is play back or speak back Nick McClelland's own words, that it's a hard fact that Libby's phone stopped moving at 2:32. How would I word my defence in a nutshell? That the state has either lied knowingly or unknowingly have completely misrepresented Rick Allen's confession, and it doesn't make sense. The confession does not make sense in relation to the evidence that we've got that Nick McClelland stated as a hard fact. I don't know how I'd word it, honestly, other than your timeline, Nick, is absolutely meaningless. Meaningless. The state introduced an alleged confession by Mr. Allen to Dr. Monica Waller, the psychologist. In the confession, Dr. Waller stated Mr. Allen said he abducted Libby and Abby on the south side of Monon High Bridge, forced them down the hill to the south side of Deer Creek. Dr. Waller said Mr. Allen said he was on the south side of Deer Creek and was planning on sexually assaulting Abby and Libby when he was interrupted by a van. So clearly, these were the words that the media. This was because, look, we weren't allowed to see the trial, were we? So we've only got the words of the people in the courtroom and what they tell us happened. So this was from one of the mainstream media write-ups. I can't remember which one, honestly. But the people who were in the courtroom, whether it's mainstream media, whether it was Bob from Defence Diaries or Andrea Burkott or Loyally, all of them reported this confession as it was stated at the trial in a very similar way. That they all heard that Rick Allen, the confession was that he was on the south side and he only crossed over the creek after he was scared by the van. That's what was testified to. That's what people heard at the trial. It's another thing they can't walk back. Too many people heard it. Okay. All right. The state introduced the testimony of Brad Weber that he left work at the Subaru factory in Lafayette at 2:02. Arrived home in his white cargo van about 2:30. From Mr. Weber's testimony, the state argued Mr. Weber's arrival home in his van was what interrupted Mr. Allen, causing him to take Libby and Abby across Deer Creek to kill them on Ron Logan's property. The arrival of Mr. Weber's van about 2:30 was a detail only the killer would know, said the state. Except, if you've been listening, everybody knew about the van, Brad Weber's van. But everybody thought that Brad Weber would come home at 3:30. Therefore, he couldn't, be a suspect because people were already looking for the girls at 3:30 by the time Brad Weber got home. That's what he testified to. The problem is the state also contended that Libby and Abby died near in time to 2:32 when Apple Health data from Libby's phone showed that the phone stopped moving. If the arrival of Mr. Weber in his van interrupted Mr. Allen, forcing him across Deer Creek, Mr. Weber would have had to arrive near his parents' house at the end of the private drive before 2:32. Way before. Because Rick has got to get the girls through the woods. I mean, it's not very far, admittedly, through the woods, across the creek, and then to the crime scene at the other side. And then kill them all by 2:32. It's insane to think that that would happen. However, in fact, Mr. Weber could not have arrived anywhere on the private drive before 2:44 and 54 seconds on February 13th. His arrival about 2:30 could not have been a detail only the killer would know because it didn't happen. The state knew or should have known as much, and the state either elicited Mr. Webber's testimony about the time he arrived home, knowing it was false ahead of time, or failed to correct the testimony once it had been elicited. So it was the defence's investigator who's attested to this. Video recording made on February 13th by a security camera that was at the house at 5998 West County Road, 252 North. The video recording was provided to the defence by the state and has therefore been in the state's possession. So the video itself was in the discovery. And you might say, well, why did the defence not bring it up? Well, okay. They could have, I guess, but they were blindsided by the introduction of Brad Webber and this van at 2:30. So the question becomes, why did the state not bring it up? It's their evidence. It's their testimony. It's their burden to prove. Why did they not bring it up? Oh, because it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the confession based on what we know from Libby's phone data. So they had to just ignore this. They had to ignore this because it doesn't fit. All right, so we know it's 12 hours out. But I think what we need to be sure of that it's just 12 hours out. Like somebody had, put AM instead of PM, when they were setting the clock up or something. They've just made a mistake with AM and PM. But we need to know that it's not 12 hours and 15 minutes wrong. So that needs to be clarified if it's a Sandifer resident. So they may not even have the same camera now. So I don't know how we do it. They don't have the same camera now. But if they don't, I mean, it's a long time ago. According to the time and date stamp on the security camera recording, Exhibit 3A shows the white van going north, entering the frame at approximately 2:44 and 33 seconds. Exhibit 3A also shows the white van continuing into the private drive of the Webber property at approximately 2:44:54, viewable on YouTube at the following address. All right, we'll watch Exhibit 3B because it's clearer. This is a video file that contains 3 Zoom clips from the video recording that Exhibit 3A. Each successive clip in Exhibit 3B is zoomed to a greater magnification. In all 3 Zoom clips, the white cargo van arrives on scene 2:44 and 33, and by the time he gets home, you're probably looking at 2:45, 2:46, and then his phone pings. So there's some stills. Then Brad Webber's phone pings at 2:50, which makes sense. Where's that? I'm not going to read all this. There we go. Exhibit 3E, the FBI subject information sheet for Mr. Webber. On 2/13/2017, Webber's phone pings to parents' address overlooking crime scene initially at 2:50 and repeatedly pings at the property until 11:55. So it's pinging all day from 2:50 until either the phone dies or maybe he turns it off or something. I don't know. Maybe he goes to bed at that point. My phone's ringing again. I may need to go and answer it. Please hold. It's the second time it's rung and it's the same person, so I'm going to go and answer it. Please hold. Hold on. Let me get my please hold on. Boom. Hey guys, I'm back. Hold on. I'm just going to have to send a text. My phone, the reception is rubbish in my house, and I didn't have time. I can't be bothered going outside, so I couldn't hear her. So I'm just going to text her saying, text me. I couldn't hear you. Text me. You cut out. All right. Okay, cool. She'll text me back. Okay, where were we? Oh, yes. Yeah. So Brad Webber's phone pinging at 2:50 makes sense if he gets home like 2:45, 2:46, right? Takes his phone out. Probably, I don't know, just the act of, making the phone light up will ping it to a tower. Like, phones periodically ping a tower anywhere. Like the towers like reach out, or phones and towers, like they reach out to each other like a few times a day. So you don't have to be using your phone for it to ping off a tower. But I imagine that it pings the tower when it, whenever. So 2:50, it makes sense. It makes sense. All right. I liked this. So look, if Brad Webber gets home, let's say shortly before 2:50, then it puts this confession in the bin, because not only does it not make sense in relation to the magic bullet, it now doesn't make sense, even more fatally, I would guess, like the fatal flaw is that the van arrives too late for Rick Allen to be scared by them to take the girls across the creek and then murder them by 2:32. So it's a fatal flaw. And then the other fatal flaw is Rick Allen's confession does not make sense in relation to this timeline. So I don't know how the state is gonna come back from this. I don't know how they can come back from this. Why keep sword sticks in your garage? What purpose for inside? I don't know. Yeah, Brad Webber had sticks like sawn in his garage. Maybe he uses them for firewood. Like if he's got like a fire that he can burn wood on. So maybe he saws sticks off his trees and puts them in the garage to dry out before using them for firewood. That's a potential. Because you have to like dry your wood out, don't you, before you can use it. So that could be a reason. Log burner, thank you. Yeah, log burner, or like an open fire, like a real, we call them a real fire. I've got a real fire here. Like I've got a chimney with a fire, a hearth. I just never can be bothered building a fire. It's just a pain in the ass. But I could, like, if I, like my next door neighbours saw wood, like he's got like a ton of wood, he saws wood for the fire. But you have to be like really dry. So I think that's probably why there were sticks in his garage. Honestly. Like, I don't pin Brad Webber for this crime. I don't think Brad Webber did this crime. Because if he got home at 2:50, then how is it possible for him to be on the bridge at 2:13? It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit with what, again, what we know. It doesn't fit with the girls being on the bridge at 2:13. Didn't see a chimney in the helicopter. Something pie over his house. Well, I don't know. I don't know what Brad Webber uses for heat, but Brad Webber was on a Google photo cutting runes. He had his Odinist friend hang out there. I think you're confusing Brad Webber for Brad Holder. Don, perhaps, possibly. Oh, don't dox me. Sorry, I called you Don. Don't dox me. I think you're confusing Brad Webber for Brad Holder. Well, there's lots of Brads in this case. Do you remember in the Chris Watts case, there was loads of Chris's? Well, in this case, there's loads of Brads. Oh, helicopter pics. All right, got you. So, Brad Webber and Brad Holder are friends. Have you got any proof of that? I mean, look, if Brad Webber's an Odinist, okay, well, that's suspicious, given that there's also potential Odinist involvement in this. And the thing with Ron Logan is that we now have to explain the sticks. Because if Ron Logan did it, I mean, look, to be honest, I've excluded Rick Allen. I've excluded Rick Allen now for multiple reasons. I'm not even going to say that Rick Allen is a suspect anymore. Rick Allen is innocent. Rick Allen is factually innocent. There's no way that Rick Allen could have done it based on the evidence that we've got. And there's absolutely no evidence to suggest he did, for all the reasons that I'm pointing out. Not just in this video either, but in many videos. But there's, Nicole's as well. Yeah. And Chris Watts. And Chris's and Nicole. Like Nicole's especially, everywhere. Elvis was considered looking at the mailbox. No, he wasn't. It was Teresa Liebert. So Teresa Liebert's house is further. It's just as you come onto the private drive. Webber's is. I'll show you the map after. I'll get the map up after. I think Logan Berry did it. We've also got like multiple Logans as well, because we've got Ron Logan and then we've got Logan Holder. I think the man that was seen on Teresa Liebert's property looks more like Logan Holder than it does Elvis Fields. There's so many dodgy people. Like pretty much any of these cast of characters could have done it, except Rick Allen, and he's the one that's got 130 years inside. Make that make sense. Wasn't there a Logan Maxwell as well? Yes, there was. There is. Yes. Ben Hill Road is full of dodgy characters. Yeah. But yeah, we could start trying to pin like some of the Ben Hill Road crew onto this as well. No, seriously, no. Different state, different case, different circumstances, all of that. But yeah, the cast of characters in this case is just as bad as the cast of characters on Ben Hill Road. Exactly. Thank you, Paper Chaser. Many tentacles. Yeah. Many tentacles. So many tentacles. That's what the woman said Elvis looks like. I know, but I know the sketch you're talking about, don't dox me, but me personally, I think that sketch looks more like Logan Holder than it does Elvis Fields. That's just my personal opinion. Yeah, the guy at the mailbox. It's my personal opinion, looks more like Logan Holder than Elvis Fields. Doesn't mean to say that I'm right. I'm just my eyeballs see Logan Holder more than I see Elvis Fields in that sketch. Didn't Ron Logan help with the search that night? No, he didn't. He said, he told Barbara McDonald that he was inside, that I played the clip the other day on my live stream. Barbara MacDonald was told that he was inside all night sorting his fish out. The fish that he got from the aquarium shop, he was, I don't know, setting up his tank and putting his fish in it. He was with his fish all night. So, yeah, Mailbox Guy is the spitting image of Logan Holder. He absolutely is. In my opinion. He really looks like Logan Holder. But anyway, no, Ron Logan did not help with the search. He allowed people on his property, like the people that asked him. He allowed people on his property, but he didn't help with the search. And given how keen he was to help the reporters, you know, go to the crime scene and go to the bridge, and he was like showing everybody around where after the girls had been found, he was more than happy to have people on his property then that he could, you know, have his 15 minutes of fame. Isn't it strange that his 15 minutes of fame comes after the girls were found when all the reporters are there and he's being like proper helpful? Well, in my opinion, that's suspicious. Like he's keeping his ear to the ground to listening to what people are saying. Yet when the girls are missing, even though they could well have been on his property, he doesn't go out and help with the search because of his fish. No, I'm sorry. I used to have goldfish. I've never had tropical fish. So I can't tell you how long it would take to set up an aquarium. I don't know what kind of fish you bought. I don't know how long it would take to set up an aquarium, but I'm guessing it's not all night. Even though we know he was outside. That's right. Ian Huntley, yeah. Being helpful in the Soho murders. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. He let the group use his property and knew what was going on. What, the ordinists? I'd like to see some proof, though. I'd like to see some absolute proof. The aquarium will be ready before he got the fish. I guess you would think so. It makes more sense to set up your aquarium, have everything ready, you know, the water at the correct temperature and the filtering and all that stuff before you get your fish. But anyway, that's what he told Barbara MacDonald. We know he was outside, though, because his phone pinged at 7:56 p.m. and then at 10... Is it 10:12 or 10:16, something like that, in the vicinity of the crime scene. So we know he was outside. We know he was outside. He said he was inside and didn't help with the search. Look, if you've got a property and two girls go missing and you've got a few acres and you just sit inside all night staring at your fish rather than going help searching, when you're fit and able, it's not like this guy is disabled or anything like that. He can trot up and down those hills, no problem whatsoever. Like he was helping people up the hill. He was helping people get up the hill. So, no. Anyhow, back to Brad Webber. All right, I'm going to play a little snippet here from this. Should Richard Allen get a new trial? This was Court TV, Vinnie Politan investigates from a few days ago. Now, I did play a couple of sections from this when I did my live stream, what was it, 2 days ago, in relation to Ron Logan. We had, who did we have on? Chris Todd. Let's have a look. Who we had on? Chris Todd, Barbara MacDonald, Bob Motta from Defence Diaries. There's Bob, there's Barbara. And it was at this point, the link to this in the description. It's very, very interesting. This is one of Vinnie's better ones. I mean, I like Vinnie Politan Investigates anyway. I watch his show almost every day. But this was a really good one. He had some really good interviewees on, and he also had all of the defense attorneys at the end, right at the end. All three attorneys Jennifer, Brad, and Andy all spoke to him. So it was really good. But I'm going to play this section here in relation to Brad Webber's van and the state's timeline. So he's got Gray Hughes, who is a staunch, absolutely staunch, Richard Allen is guilty person. Absolutely staunch. You like he will absolutely rubbish you. Like, he comes into my comments occasionally and tells me that I'm embarrassing. I don't take it personally. I know what Gray's like. You know, I don't hold it against him. I know what he's like. But he says it's embarrassing when I'm like saying Rick Allen's innocent. Well, all right, great, fine. Well, I don't know how you can say this now. So we've got Gray Hughes on here and we've got Bob on. So it's interesting that he's got them both on together. But anyway, we're going to listen to this. We're going to do some comments. A person hasn't texted me back. You see, if she texts me back, I don't have to go out. Because I'm going to have to go soon. I have to go in like 20 minutes. If she doesn't text me back, I'm going to have to go. I don't hold it against him, honestly. I think there's some work that he does is really good. You know, some of his, yeah, like the Kohlberger stuff he's done, I really like. He does some good stuff. This is the thing. I don't hold it against him. Maybe I should, because once he's got his idea, once he's got his opinion, he will not sway. He will not take new ideas on, and that's a problem. Yeah, I mean, don't slag him off in the comments. Don't slag him off. I'm just saying that, you know, he calls me embarrassing, but he does some good work, and we don't agree on this case. This is the thing. We don't agree on this case, and that's fine, because there are other cases where we do agree, and that's also fine. But it can be quite rude. But let's not go down, you know, the gutter press route. Let's not do that. All right, so we're going to play this, and let's listen to Gray.
Is the state's timeline correct? Is it correct? Is there anything in this timeline that doesn't jive with the evidence in the case? Joining me, the YouTube live streamer behind Gray Hughes Investigates. He's followed this case extremely closely and I call him the king of timelines. Gray Hughes is with us. And someone who was in the courtroom for the Delphi murders trial, criminal defense attorney and host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob Motta. Okay, I want to introduce something that was referenced in a defense filing, which is some surveillance video. Let's take a look at it, because this surveillance video apparently captures or allegedly captures that van, that white Econoline van on 2/13/2017. Notice the time, 2:44 and 33 seconds. 2:44 and 33 seconds is when this van is allegedly seen driving on that road. Okay, let me start with you, Gray.
All right, before Gray hops in here, that is definitely Brad Webber's van. There's no other van that passes by. Like, it's a private drive, so it's not like you're gonna get randoms turning up. There was no other van, no other vehicle that passed by at this time, or between, I think the defense did between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. There's no other vehicle. Like, it's not like Brad Webber went there and then left and then came back and, you know, was toing and froing. This was the only activity that was seen on the private drive. So, no. All right, let's listen to Gray, because Gray has a problem with this.
I don't know what you're seeing in this video.
Yeah.
If this is Weber's van at 2:44, does that mean that the timeline of the state is incorrect here?
It does mean that there's like a portion of it that wouldn't be accurate. I would say that you'd have to, it just changes when he was startled by the van.
Well, does it though? Because Gray's got a little knot that he needs to untie here. Again, no negative comments against Gray in the chat or in the comments if you replay. This is not what I'm doing this for. This is, it's just a problem. And even Gray, the staunch Rick Allen is guilty person, has a problem with this, that it can't be true, can't be accurate. But it doesn't mean that Rick Allen did what he did later. Like, if he's startled by the van at 2:44, well, the phone, Libby's phone, had already stopped moving 12 minutes previous over on the other side of the creek. So that can't make sense, can it? That can't make sense at all.
So you've got, when you look at the time on the clock, they said it's 12 hours off. Do we know that if it's 12 hours off, how do we know it's not 12 hours and 20 minutes off?
Well, there is that, yes. There is that. It makes sense that it's 12 hours off because I've done it myself. Listen, I've done it myself and I've set up a clock and you don't realize that it's like AM and PM and you just leave it. You just leave it. But 12 hours and 20 minutes off, how would that arrive to be? I mean, is it constantly slow or constantly fast, or did it stop working for a time and then whatever? Like, how can it be 12 hours, 20 minutes? I do agree it needs to be checked if that's possible, given that it's 8 years ago. Is that possible? But it doesn't, it makes sense, this 2:44, and then, you know, the van has to go all the way up here, like around this bend, and it goes under the bridge and then to his property. So you're looking at maybe another minute, 2 minutes to actually get to the property. It makes absolute sense. Like, the time on this clock makes sense when you think that his phone pinged at 2:50 in the vicinity of his house. So it's like the phone is saying hello to the tower. And it's like, oh, you're back. Hello. They say hello to each other and then they continue to periodically ping. That makes absolute sense that this is 2:44 when the phone pinged at 2:50 at his house. Makes absolute sense. So I don't think that this clock is going to be 12 hours and 20 minutes off. I mean, look, it's possible, but it's unlikely given that the phone, Brad Weber's phone, pinged at 2:50. You've almost got that, you know, corroborating piece of evidence there from Brad Weber's phone.
So somebody needs to do some investigation into what was the actual time of that video. But let's say it is Weber's van driving by at 2:44. So what that would mean is, in Richard Allen's statement, he said he went down the hill and he was going to assault them down below. This is a little bit of a correction to the timeline that you had on your screen.
Sure.
He had him go down down the hill, and then he was going to assault them down below. But then he got startled while he was down below. Then he crossed the creek. That's what his story was. Okay, so that makes, you know, that part of the story wouldn't be accurate. It sounds...
No, it's not accurate. It's not accurate because it didn't happen.
I've always thought that he crossed the creek, then he saw the van. That's before the testimony of trial. That I thought
hold on a minute, Gray. You've just Gray. Gray, you listening? You've just admitted that you knew about the van and that this was in Rick Allen's confession before the trial. So how did you find that out, Gray? How did you find that out, Gray? We know that Gray knew about it before because he's in people's chats talking about it. Way before this came out. Way before this came out. So let's listen to that again. He thought, right, let's listen.
Weber's van driving by at 2:44. So what that would mean is, in Richard Allen's statement, he said he went down the hill. He was going to assault them down below. This is a little bit of a correction to the timeline that you had on your screen.
Sure.
He had him go down the down the hill, and then he was going to assault them down below. But then he got startled while he was down below. Then he crossed the creek. That's what his story was. Okay, so that makes, that part of the story wouldn't be accurate. I've always thought that he crossed the creek, then he saw the van. Now,
I've always thought he crossed the creek, then he saw the van. Is that what Rick Allen was meant to say? Or is that what Monica Waller was meant to say to make it all make sense? But actually, no, that's not what was testified to. That's not what was testified to. Monica Waller testified that Rick Allen told her that let's get what was stated in court. Allen told her he saw a man or heard a van. We know now that it was van. And that's what scared him not to rape them. He then forced the girls down the hill, across the creek, slashed their throats, covered their body with tree branches, and walked back to his car. Oh dear. That's what was testified to. That becomes like a fact, quote unquote, that the jury believed. You can't now come along and say that, oh, I always thought he crossed the creek first. Well, when did you hear him confess? Because this came out at the trial. So you always thought, okay, interesting that you always thought.
That's before the testimony at trial, that I thought he crossed the creek and was startled by the van while he was at the crime scene. And
look, if he's over the other side of the creek, how is he getting startled by the van right the way over the other side of the creek? I mean, yes, you can see from the crime scene, you could see up the hill on the opposite side. So maybe you can see a van, but why would you take two girls to that location? Why not take them to a different location that isn't overlooked in the first place? No. Once you're over the other side of the creek, you're not going to be startled by the van. You're more likely to be startled by people on the bridge, because from the crime scene, you can hear people on the bridge. So you're more likely to be startled by people on the bridge than a van driving by.
And the phone actually stops moving from 217, I believe, or 218 to 225. Then at 225 to 232, it seems to cross the creek and then go up the bank as we get an elevation shift.
No. The elevation change we get is not enough to even register as one flaw on the phone. Look, Gray is considered the map guy, so I'm very sure that Gray can do this himself and look at what the elevation change is between being on the middle of the creek and then being at the crime scene. The rise is about 2 meters from the middle of the creek to the the kind of the beginning where the crime scene begins, like the bank. It's about 6.5 feet. Like it's the shallow part of the bank. Thank you, Dulce, for gifting 5 memberships. You are so kind. So we've got Yaya, we've got Crochet and Crime. Who else have we got here? The chat jumped down. Who else have we got here? We've got Wendy, Skilo, and Lucy. Welcome, you 5. Get a monthly membership. Go and check out the members area. We've got lots of videos in there. And thank you, Dulce. You're so kind. So it's all a big problem, isn't it? All a big problem.
On the watch, and that's when it's, or the phone, I mean, and that's when it stopped moving.
Yeah, it stopped moving. But it didn't rise 20 feet before it stopped moving. This is a problem. This is a problem. This is in the wrong place. It's completely doesn't work in Richard Allen's confession. And it seems to be in the wrong place for Ron Logan's confession as well. This is why I'm wondering whether this is fabricated, whether this is more fabricated data. I don't understand how this could have happened. If this is accurate, and Nick McClellan says this is a fact, this is an absolute hard fact that this happened, I don't understand how this could have happened between 2:31 and 2:32. The phone registering 2 floors climbed, because from the middle of the creek to the bank is about 6.5 feet, and then you get maybe another meter rise, another 3 feet as you head through the crime scene, as you walk like to the opposite side of the crime scene. And then you get a very quick elevation leap when you start to go up the hill towards Ron Logan's place. So at best you'd get 1 floor. I don't think you'd even get 1 floor though. Like that, just that rise of 6.5 feet wouldn't even register as 1 floor, never mind 2. And it tends to the phone tends to underestimate anyway. Like sometimes my iPhone 12 will register me going upstairs. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it doesn't even consider me going from my ground floor to my upstairs. It doesn't even register as a floor. I don't know why sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but it does seem to be that iPhones underestimate the amount of movement rather than overestimate. A floor is about 10 feet, yeah. So a 20-foot rise would register 2 floors, but there's nowhere near that crime scene where you can get a 20-foot rise. Like from the creek bed to the bank where the crime scene is, it's about 6.5 foot rise, 2 meters. So nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense. I don't know how people can still be championing the state's case. I honestly don't. Because what the state presented at the trial is now Rick Allen's best defense. And that's no word of a lie. That's not hyperbole. This is now the defense's best case. Is what the state said were hard facts at the trial.
All right, so it stopped moving. So it could still be that they were made to go up the hill. The phone was put on the ground. And then 13 minutes later, they were killed by Richard Allen, or maybe it just kept going on and on.
What do you mean it kept going on and on? What do you mean it kept going on and on? It didn't go on and on. The phone stopped moving at 2:32. So if you're saying it's going on and on, well, what on earth was happening? What on earth was happening? Yeah, Bob's like, yeah, okay. Look at Bob. Bob's trying not to laugh. I'm sorry. I couldn't have kept a straight face. If I'd be the opposing party here, there's probably a reason why I'm never asked to go on court TV because I don't know that I could stay composed when I'm listening to this absolute BS. I'm sorry. I don't think I could stay composed.
Because the thing is if you believe Sarah Carbaugh, that she saw him walking, I don't actually put any, I don't put any weight to Sarah Carbaugh. That's like an hour later.
Yeah. Well, you can't put any weight to Sarah Carbaugh because she lied. She out and out lied when she said she saw a muddy and bloody man at 3:57 walking on County Road North. Have you seen how open County Road North is? If you had mud and blood on you from just committing a double homicide, there's no way in the world you'd walk down that road. No way. And she was traveling at 30 miles an hour, and she said she saw him for 30 seconds and got a really good look at him. What, at traveling 30 miles an hour? All right, then. Okay. Yeah, Monica Waller lied. Sarah Carbaugh lied. They either lied or they had words put in their mouth. Like that things were said that they then took on as fact. That they were, primed, if you will, to say certain things. I don't know. They all lied. I honestly don't think Betsy Blair lied. I think Betsy Blair was a good witness. But the defense weren't allowed to really dig in to her testimony because they weren't allowed to put the sketches on. Like, the sketches were disallowed from the trial. So Betsy Blair's sketch of the young man with dark poofy hair, I mean, that blows Richard Allen completely off the bridge. Like, there's no way that the person Betsy Blair saw at 2:00 is Richard Allen or Ron Logan, for that matter. Neither of them are young, in their 20s, and neither of them have brown poofy hair. So the person that Betsy Blair claims she saw is completely someone else completely. Now, it could be someone innocently going for a walk, but why has that person never come forward? You've just got to, ask the question, why has that person never come forward? Or is Betsy Blair mistaken that she didn't see a young man with dark poofy hair? So she's a good witness, both for the state and for the defense. But the defense weren't allowed to really get the best out of her. But I don't think she lied. I think she told what, the truth as she, believed it to be.
Right.
So what was he doing at the crime scene all that time?
Let me go to Bob on this. All right, Bob.
Don't know. What was he doing at the crime scene all that time? Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that because it didn't happen. Rick Allen wasn't at that crime scene. It didn't happen. Simple as that.
There was also some FBI subject information sheet, which seemed to indicate that Weber's phone pings to his parents' address overlooking the crime scene initially at 2:50 p.m. What are your thoughts about the timeline now in light of this video, if the timestamp is accurate on that video?
I think if the timestamp on the video is accurate, it absolutely destroys the state's timeline.
And that's stating the obvious. It absolutely destroys the state's timeline. Totally, completely. The state's timeline and the state's testimony and Nick McClelland's hard facts are now Rick Allen's best defense. Absolutely, without a doubt.
And the reason is this. Probably the most powerful words that came out of Nick McClelland's mouth during that entire trial was the last things that he said to that jury, and that was that these two girls solved their own murders. And Nick decided to say that Abby, in her last act on this planet, was to hide the phone underneath herself, which would mean that that would have happened at 2:32 in the afternoon. And this completely destroys that. Completely. There's no way around that theory being wrong.
Hey, absolutely. He's 100% correct. There's no way. Like, Nick McClelland, in my opinion, what Nick McClelland said about Abby hiding the phone under herself while she was dying is cruel. It's a cruel thing to say for Abby's family. because there is no way that that happened. And the only reason why Nick McClellan made that up is because it sounds great to the jury. It's cruel to put that on Abby, because that did not happen. That did not happen. And when they find out that that did not happen, when it dawns on them that that did not happen, that is just so cruel to Abby's family. It was absolutely to elicit emotion, yeah. That Libby solved the crime in that she, took the video, and then Abby made sure that the killer couldn't take the phone away because she hid it. I'm sorry, if you're stabbed in the neck and you're bleeding out, there's no way that you'd have the wherewithal, the presence of mind to take the phone, because remember, this is Libby's phone, not Abby's phone. So Abby wouldn't have had it on her person. Libby would have had it on her person. So she's stabbed in the neck, so she's bleeding out. Not dropping any blood anywhere, though. So she's got to then take the phone from Libby, who's already dead. Then she's got to lie down flat on her back and put the phone on the ground, put a shoe on top of it, and then lie on it, flat on her back. While she's all doing this, the consciousness that she's got to have to plan all this out, all while she's bleeding out. I'm sorry. No, that did not happen. Was there blood on the phone? I don't believe there was. I don't believe there was. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe there was. I don't believe there was any DNA on the phone. But maybe it wasn't tested. So, yeah, I believe the forensics said the phone was clean. Yeah. So the phone's completely clean. And Abby's dying, bleeding out. How do we know BG was the guy who committed the murders? We don't. We don't know. We don't even know that. Absolutely. We don't know that, Andrew. It's an assumption. That's all. So, no DNA of Rick at the crime scene. Seemingly no DNA of anyone known, but the majority of stuff at the crime scene wasn't tested. So
you can't have it both ways.
I got you. We're out of time right now. We are going to continue this conversation, though, Gray. I know you've got to come back, but I'm on a tight schedule tonight. All right, I'll give you 15 seconds, Gray. 15 seconds. Promise.
All right. Why didn't the defense bring that up at trial? Because they know that it places the white van right there during the crime, and they didn't want to bring it up at trial. They've had it the whole time. So you might want to ask yourself that question.
Okay.
Well, again, why didn't the state bring it up at trial? They've had that the whole time. That was in the discovery. So why did the state make this lie, continue this lie that the van got there between 2:27 and 2:30 when they absolutely knew that there was video evidence of that van driving on the private drive at 2:44 and Brad Webber's phone pinging at 2:50 at his house. So how could the defense have brought that up? Like they were ambushed by Brad Webber and this new timeline. So yeah, maybe if they were prepared, they knew that was coming, they could have had that in as counter. But they probably weren't allowed to. We're not privy, and no one in the court is privy to all of the sidebars that they have. So how do we know that the defense were, how do we know what they were told and what they were told that they couldn't use? So the burden, Gray knows this, the burden of proof is on the state. But if the state lies, if the state has evidence in its own discovery that shows that their own testimony, their own witnesses, and their own theory is incorrect, then how are they allowed to get away with that? How are they allowed to get away with it? No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. No. All right. Let's leave that to one side. I'm sure we're going to come back to Brad Webber's van again. But I think we've shown without a doubt that the state's hard facts can't be hard facts, and you can't have it both ways, as Vinnie said. So the state's theory and the state's timeline and the state's hard facts are now Rick Allen's best defense. Okay, before I go, and I will have to go soon. I said I only had an hour max, but I've been on now for well over an hour. So hopefully I don't actually need to go out now. But she's not texted me back yet, so yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to keep going. I've not got too much more. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. All right. So I had a comment from somebody regarding my live stream that I did the other day, and I measured it out, and it makes total sense. So I'm going to show you this in a minute. All right. I'm not going to play it all. I'm just going to show you one point in it. This is Delphi After Dark's walk. So this is Rick Snail's walk across the Monon High Bridge, and he does it in about 4 minutes. So he has like quite a brisk pace on him, but he does it in about 4 minutes from the beginning of the north end right to, you know, coming off at the south end. It's a 4-minute walk, like a brisk walk. But there's one point in it that I want to just show you. So we'll leave that there for the time being, but I am going to have to go out and come back in because I want to use the map. So, all right. So we're going to get the map up here. All right. Woo. Woo. All right. So the house where the van is seen, just going back to that for a second, is about here. This is the Sandifer property. This is the Webber property up here. And the van is seen going past this little row here. The van's seen going past there, up here, and then it kind of goes off the screen. It goes out of view. So it's got to then quite some way, like a minute, 2-minute drive, goes under the bridge and then to the property. So I think the time on that van is on that surveillance camera is accurate. You know, because the phone pinging at 250 corroborates it. Anyhow, the comment that I had, and I didn't screenshot the comment, but I remember it, is what I was trying to do in the live stream from a couple of days ago is see how Ron Logan's confession to Reese Davis makes sense in relation to Libby's phone data. So does Libby's phone data match his confession? And it works apart from that last two floors climbed. That breaks it. It breaks it. It's yet another thing that breaks Rick Allen's timeline. But it also isn't consistent with Ron Logan's. But the rest of it kind of is. Like, we managed to get it where if Ron Logan met the girls on the bridge, so Ron Logan's bridge guy, and we know it's about just over 600 meters to a third of the way across, and then another 414 meters will get you down here and then over the other side and going partway up this hill towards Ron Logan's, and Ron Logan's house is there. And then the partway up the hill, and they stop for 7 minutes while maybe Ron Logan's trying to be nice to them and persuade them to go, because Libby doesn't want to go. Abby wants to go and see the horses, but Libby doesn't. Libby gets paranoid. And then maybe the 50 meters is Libby running back, like trying to escape, like runs back, ends up where she dies. And then Abby is taken elsewhere. We don't know where Abby goes because Abby isn't killed at the same time, according to Ron Logan's confession. Now, the comment I had was, what if they didn't get all the way to the end of the bridge and Ron Logan actually met them only like third of the way across the bridge? So they were on the bridge, but what if he met them? Because if you go right to the end and then you walk all the way back and then walk all the way back on this trail and end up here, it's way more than 414 meters. So there's no way. I mean, let's do the measure. Like in 414 meters, let's go from here. If you get all the way to the end and then walk all the way back, oops, and it fell off then. You walk all the way back and then go up this trail to the crime scene. It's like 800 meters. It's like double what the phone recorded. So if Ron Logan's confession is accurate based on Libby's phone data, you got to go this way and you've got to go along here, and then you're starting going up the hill before you get to 414 meters. You started to go up the hill, and then you've got 50 meters, so you've got another 50 meters coming down, and this is kind of Libby like in this crime scene area. Right, you know, moving around somewhat. You get your 50 meters, but the problem is the 2 floors climbed. The 2 floors climbed had to come earlier. But anyway, somebody asked me to measure, what if Ron Logan met them like on the bridge, but early on the bridge. Early on the bridge. Does that measure, like just walking this way, does that measure fit with the timeline? And it does. So if the girls were on the bridge and only got maybe third of the way across, and then Ron Logan met them, and they started walking back. So they go up this trail to the crime scene. You've got 434 meters. So that fits. That fits. The problem I've got with it, though, is the bridge guy video. That's the problem I've got with it. Because we now have this big question mark, and I know a lot of people have had problems with the BG video for years, but there's even more of a problem with it now. We know that the 43-second video that the people in the courtroom saw doesn't look like the clip that we've seen, that you only see BG in the distance. You can't make him out. So I don't know what to believe. Quite honestly, I do not know what to believe about the BG video, like the BG picture and the video. So that's why I've been watching some videos of people walking across the bridge. Like I went right back to the beginning. Let's get a picture of BG. Do we have a picture of BG? We surely have a picture of BG somewhere. Hold on one moment. I'm going to find a picture of BG. Just one second. Oh, here we go. A picture of BG here. All right. So here's BG, right? And he's near this platform and near this tree that stands out quite a lot. So it's like a wrong way around F. So where is BG? And I know loads of people have discussed this. Loads and loads of people have discussed this. Like I said, I had to go right back to the beginning and say, all right, where is BG on the bridge? Rick Snail did get across pretty quick, 4 minutes. We do. We absolutely need to see the original BG video to judge how far away he is. Absolutely, we do. So there's the original BG video clip. That was released on the 15th of February, 2017. And then it was April 2019 when we get that like 2 second few frames of him walking. All right, so we're looking for a platform near a tree that looks like a wrong way around F. So I've watched a bunch. I watched a bunch of these walking across the bridge videos. But I like Rick Snail's because he walks across without stopping, and he walks a brisk pace. And it does look like BG is walking briskly. Like we've only seen a couple of seconds, but how can you judge it off a couple of seconds? We need to see the full 43-second video. Has the image been inverted? Well, this is something that I've considered as well. Look. So Rick Snail gets to here. His dog walked across it as well. I don't need the sound. So we're just looking at the time. So there he's on the bridge. So we started 19 seconds in when he steps on the bridge for the first time. At the end, all right, so stepping off the bridge there, 4:26. So he's done it in just over 4 minutes. All right. The dog crossing makes me anxious. Yeah. Like if I walk my dogs across there's absolutely 100% I would fall in. Because one of them had jumped and pushed me off. Dear me. So just over 4 minutes it takes to walk across. Now, so we've got to find an area where we've got trees overhanging. So there's no trees overhanging because at first it's crossing the creek. Like the first portion of it is crossing the creek. So it's only when you get to like past the creek that you've got trees that overhang. All right, so we got to get to the trees area. So we're coming up to the trees area now, right? So You see, he's still over the creek. So we get to the trees area in a second. So we're a minute into the walk, and he's just about getting across the creek. Not quite yet. All right, so we're gonna look at these trees. Right, so we'll start it from there, and we want trees that overhang that looks like an F, a wrong way around F. So we've got one platform there. All right, there's a, no, maybe, possibly, but it's going the wrong way, isn't it? So no, not that one, maybe. That one, maybe, possibly, maybe not. Whoa, don't fall in. But we need a platform near it as well. So is it that one? That's going the right way. Because the others are going the wrong way. So is it that one? So if you look, it's going that way, isn't it? It's not, the branches aren't coming in. The branches are going out. Like that. So I think it's that tree that you're seeing in the background. But it's not close. Like, there's the platform and there's the tree. So it looks like that this tree is really close to the platform. So there's been some real jiggery-pokery with this video. I don't know what the jiggery-pokery is, but there has been jiggery-pokery because this tree looks like it's right next to this platform, and it isn't. It's quite a ways away. So we've no way of knowing where Bridge Guy is, really, because there's been jiggery-pokery. Something has happened to this image. I don't know why. I don't know why, whether it's just innocent, you know, just trying to get the best possible image and the way that it's been, I don't know. I don't know why this tree would look like it's right next to this platform when it clearly isn't. It clearly isn't. There's the tree and there's the platform. So let's count how many seconds it takes Rick. So he's now about 3/4 of the way across. Right, took him 4 minutes and we're at almost 3 minutes. So he's about 3/4 of the way across right now. All right, so another second and he's past that tree. So we're now going to see how many seconds it takes him to get to this platform. So 2:57, he's just passed. And remember, he's walking pretty quickly. But there isn't another tree that it can be. I don't understand. So there, he's past the platform. So it's took him, what was it, 2:57? It's took him about 20 seconds, not quite, to get to this platform. So if you were good at maths, if you were good, oh, I don't have to go out. I've just got a text. Ah, woohoo. If you were good at maths, you'd be able to work out how far that was away. I might give it a try after. So how many feet the bridge is, how long it takes to walk across, and then work out how far this is. Like, it takes 20 seconds to walk from the tree to the platform. So then you get a rough estimate about how far that is. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever measured it. Like, we know how long the bridge is, but you can't do it on a map. You can't look at the tree on the map. You can't see that tree on the map to get a measure of how far that is. If anybody's ever gone on the bridge and actually measured it, like physically measured from that tree to that platform, I'd really like to know. Because we can make a rough guess based on math. But it would be good to have an absolute measure from that tree. So where's BG then? Because BG looks like he's past the platform. I mean, I don't know how that background has become so compressed. Like, it doesn't look like this tree and this platform is 20 seconds away from each other, like walking briskly. It's like the background for somewhere somehow has been compressed. So we don't know really how far BG is away from this platform. Like, we need the original video. Like, Rick Snail, not Rick Allen. Rick Snail is just over 3/4 of the way across. It's been zoomed. Yeah, it's been zoomed, yeah. But like, how has that background become so compressed is my question. So BG's maybe about there, maybe. Like, we don't know because we can't look back to see the platform. But if we say it's just over 3/4 of the way across, Libby is going to have to be, like, if in real time BG is right in the distance, then it means that Libby had to be right the ways across the bridge. She had to be right the ways across. If BG in the original video is really, really off in the distance, as people said he was, who were actually in the courtroom, then how is it that it had to be so zoomed in? Like, she had to be quite a ways away from him for it to be, needed to be so zoomed in. Empty pixel filling. Okay, could be. Trial goers said the actual video BG is barely noticeable. Yeah. Yeah. That's what people said. That's what people said. But if BG is right a ways away, it's possible that BG could have been here and Libby right the way at the other end. So it takes Rick about another, just under a minute to get to the end. He's just over 3/4 of the way across. So, yeah, BG could be here, and it even looked like he was right in the distance. It's very possible. So if that's the case, Libby's right the way over the southern end. So we do have to consider, if the BG video can be believed in any way, shape or form, to caveat that now. Never had to caveat it before. I've always believed that the BG video, yes, it's zoomed in, yes, it's unclear, but it's accurate in that it puts BG about here, I mean, I've got maybe a bit further up there, should be. I'll turn this to 2017. Okay. Maybe I've got BG a little bit too far away from where he actually was. Can we see the platform? Yeah, there, yeah. There's the platform. So the F tree is going to be like up here. There's the platform. So BG is maybe there. I might have to move him. But it puts Libby at the end of the bridge. If BG's in the distance, it puts Libby at the end of the bridge. So the upshot is, I think they did get to the southern end of the bridge. So if Ron Logan walked with them, maybe he was coming this way, they're going this way, and he's turned round. Maybe he's walked off. Maybe he's walked off and he's come back. Because there's nobody in the background of the photo of Abby. Like, Abby's about here. If we believe that 207 photo. And how can we believe the 207 photo is accurate? Because that wasn't even on Libby's phone. So had that been deleted from Libby's phone? Had somebody deleted that picture from Libby's phone? But how can they, like, they can find deleted messages. So if the killer had started deleting stuff off her phone, how come the cops didn't find it? I don't understand. Like the photo of Abby, there's no one in the background. And the photo of Abby was taken about here because it's just over the creek. It's just this side of the creek, like you can see the creek in the background. So I think BG is about there. I have to move him up. So if it's Ron Logan, because I've excluded Rick Allen. Rick Allen's not even in the frame anymore. He's not. So if it's Ron Logan, absolutely he could have come. He could have been walking like on this trail coming down and got to here and seen the girls. Because Ron Logan's phone data puts him in the vicinity of the bridge at 209. Maybe several photos were deleted. Maybe, but you would think that deleted photos would be retrievable. I mean, maybe less so if you delete them off your phone completely. So not only do you delete the photo, you go into your deleted files and then permanently delete it. Then it makes it more difficult to get back. Logan's ex said it was him on the bridge. I know she did, yeah. I know she did. I played the interview with her. So not the last live stream I did, the live stream before. I played the interview that she did with what's her name? Ashley Banfield. That was just a few days ago. But there was 15 tips. 15 people rang in to say that it was Ron Logan on the bridge. Deleted photos are recoverable until overwritten. And then there's no way of knowing, is there, when they're going to be overwritten? So if Ron Logan's in the vicinity of the bridge at 209, let's say that that photo at 207 is true, and that really was taken at 207, then the girls are about here. So Ron Logan walks along, and by 209, they've got a little bit further across. Ron Logan comes up behind them. 209 puts him on the bridge, and then they're walking. They see him in the distance. Maybe they walk a little bit quicker, get to the end of the bridge, and he's coming up. It could easily be Ron Logan. It makes sense. But it does mean, based on Libby's phone data, that if it is Ron Logan, that he had to take them that way, rather than walk them all the way back and then all the way around here. That's just too far for Libby's phone data. I mean, yeah, there might be some underestimation of the distance, but not that much, I don't think, because it puts it at more than twice the distance of the 414 meters. Like it puts it at twice that distance, which I don't think is accurate. I don't think is accurate, because if they've got to have gone, so again we'll measure it out from there all the way to the bottom of the bridge, which is about there, and then all the way back, and you get to that bit there, and there's a trail that goes up this. It's not really that big of a hill, and then to the crime scene. It's 878 meters. So there's no way that 414 meters is that inaccurate. It may be somewhat inaccurate, but it's more than double. So I think if it's Ron Logan, I think he took them this way. He had to. He had to take them this way. Because then you got down the hill to the private drive, then you go down the hill again. So that's about a 30-foot drop. And then across the creek. And then you're starting to walk up this hill. And you're maybe about there by the time you get to your 414 meters. So remember, we've got to include some of this as well. So 414 meters down the hill, through this little wooded area, across the creek, and then you're starting to go up the hill. And then Libby freaks out. So maybe there's 7 minutes where Ron Logan's trying to persuade them to go. And Libby eventually says no. And she starts to like run back. And that's when he attacks her. And it puts her in that vicinity. So that makes absolute sense to me. It makes sense to me, apart from this. Apart from this. How can there be 2 floors climbed between 231 and 232? That has to be a mistake. Somewhere along the line, that has to be a mistake. If Ron Logan's confession is true. Yeah, the police had Ron Logan. Yeah. Yeah, for some reason they didn't feel that they had a case that was strong enough. Yeah, that's obviously what happened. The FBI thought it was him. Like early doors, they thought it was him. They searched his entire house and they didn't have enough. They didn't have enough on him. But yet they had enough on Rick Allen. I mean, it just make it make sense. Come on. Make it make sense. I mean, they didn't have anything on Rick Allen. They had to rely on the magic bullet until we find the magic van. And then the magic van sealed the deal for them. But the magic van is so magic that it arrives 12 minutes after the girls were killed. So it doesn't make sense. None of it does. There you go. There you go. All right, guys. All right, guys. So we've got a new case coming up. Well, it's not a new case, but there is a trial coming up that I am going to be covering. That is the case against Megan Boswell. We've been waiting for this for such a long time. And finally, her trial is in just a handful of days. In just a handful of days. And I have checked with Sullivan County's, hold on a minute. Got to get it up. Megan Boswell. What are you doing? Let me find user. Well, let me find user. All right, there we go. All right, here we are. Megan Boswell. So for those of you who don't know the case of Megan Boswell, we are going to be doing a live stream of trial prep to outline the case, and the trial begins on the 3rd of February. So Megan Boswell has been in the Sullivan County Jail, this is Tennessee, since 2020. This case is 5 years old. And the trial of finally is going 3rd of February. So we are going to be following this trial very closely. I'm hoping it's going to be televised. But we're going to be doing a trial prep live stream. Now, I have covered Megan Boswell's case before, but not for a long time. So we need to outline the entire case before the trial starts. So I may do it tomorrow. Either tomorrow or Saturday. I'm going to outline the case against Megan Boswell. I might do it tomorrow. Unless there's anything like really big that comes up in any of the other cases that I'm following, I'll do it tomorrow. But anyway, Megan Boswell is accused of murdering her 15-month-old, not 15-month-old, not 15 years, 15-month-old daughter, Evelyn Boswell. What's she done? She is accused of murdering little baby Evelyn and then just completely lying. I mean, the charges against her are insane. Insane. So we've got first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, tampering with evidence, a whole bunch of false reporting, abuse of a corpse. I mean, it's just bad. It's just really bad. Really bad. It's horrible. It's horrible. And it's even more horrible when you realize what she actually did, allegedly, to murder baby Evelyn. I mean, it's just cruel, callous, horrendous situation. So we're going to outline it all, and hopefully it's going to be televised. I will stream the trial if it is televised. I've been waiting for this case to go to trial literally 4 years. Literally 4 years. Is the boyfriend getting charged? Not that I've heard. Not that I've heard. The case is against Megan Boswell. So that's what we're going to be doing very soon. So when is the 3rd of February? Like next Monday, is it? Oh. Yeah, next Monday. So the trial starts next Monday. And it's gonna be one of them that's grim. Really grim. Do I think that Rick Allen will have the same judge if there's an appeal? Judge Gull won't be overseeing the appeal, but if the appeal's successful and he gets a retrial, there is a chance that he'll get Judge Gull again for the second trial. So that's very possible. But the appeals court, that's like different court, different judge. Oh, just watching a case in Indiana where a 6-month-old baby was getting eaten alive by rats. Oh my God. Oh, that's horrendous. Do we know that it was actually Ron at the fish shop? Could someone else have bought them for him, hence the receipt? Yeah, unless we see CCTV that it actually was Ron at the fish shop, the aquarium shop, then yeah, someone else could have bought the fish for him. Jury selection is the 3rd. Have they not already done jury selection? Was that not the plan? To do jury selection before? Okay, so if jury selection is the 3rd, then the trial isn't going to start for maybe a couple of days after. So we'll have to play it by ear. We always have to play it by ear with trials anyway. But at least we've got this far. Oh, it was delayed. Okay. Everything's been delayed in this case. All right, so jury selection is the 3rd. So are they going to then go straight into the trial? I assume they're just going to go straight into the trial once the jury's seated. So at some point next week, let's just say this, some point next week, her trial begins. And we will be following, once it's begun, then we'll be following this trial very, very closely. If it's televised, I'll stream it. If it's not being televised, then I'll do recaps. She's absolutely a monster. Yeah. Absolutely a monster. All right, guys. I'm going to go now. So thank you all for joining me. Glad I don't have to go out again. You've got me for a whole extra hour than I intended. I said that this was going to be 1 hour max and it's going to be easy to watch on the replay. And look where we are. 2 hours later, I'm still talking. So thank you all for joining me. And thank you to those that donated earlier on in the live stream. Welcome to the new members. Thanks as always to the mods. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.